What's up, kitchen table wizards and deck brewers from all over the world. My name is
Hello.
Bram, and together with my intern Camille, she is here in a virtual way. We are going to brew for you a nice tribal deck. So today we are talking goblins, and this deck is also a little bit of a tribute to a good friend of mine who started playing with me back in '94, I think. His name is Philip, but we call him the Goblin King because he loves to play goblins. So what can you expect from today's video? Well, we are going to build for you a 3-color goblin deck with a lot of synergies, a lot of one-offs, a lot of janky combos in the colors red, black and white, which might surprise you for goblins. And for those of you who want to test their magic knowledge like we did in the bird video, well, we also have a quiz at the end. How goblin are you?
Nope.
To find out how your knowledge of goblin cards is. Let me know in the comments if you like my video, which deck you would like to see me brew next time, or how you did in my little quiz at the end. And if you put in a comment, you are eligible to win a card market voucher. And the winner of this voucher I'm going to announce at the end of the video. So if you like my brewing madness, make sure to be a good sport and give this video a like. If I get to 100 likes, I might be brewing for you a scorpion deck.
Take me to the magic of the moment. Oh my god, I really like Scorpions. It's one of my favorite group.
That's true, Camille, the Scorpions are a band, but today we are not going to include Scorpions. We are going to include the Offspring's Revenge.
Doesn't matter, I'm a big fan of Offspring too. Ta-na-na-na. Come on, you know Bram. You're pretty fly for what, guy?
Yes, Camille, the Offspring is also a band, I know, but focus, let's start with the deck. Today's deck cost around $40, but the deck has a lot of sweet cards in it that you can use in different formats as well. As you know, I like casual 60 card magic. I like fun, fast games where you can play maybe like 6-7 games in an hour. So definitely check out the list also in the description below. As always, we start with the style of the deck, and with the style of the deck I'm talking about basic land art. The deck plays 10 mountains, and I was looking for a mountain where I could see some goblins roaming around, and this definitely fits the bill. This beautiful plane from Sam Burley from Terros Beyond Death also is included in the deck, and I also play 3 swamps from Throne of Eldraine. This goblin deck contains a king, and a king needs to have a castle, so I included Castle Embereth. And the other goblins, they have to hang out in the Goblin Burrows, so also Goblin Burrows is in the deck. The deck is mainly playing red, but also we included a splash of white and a splash of black. So that's why I included some tents, the Nomad Outpost for the goblins that are not even welcome in the burrows. I also play a Smoldering Marsh and a Battlefield Forge for some other corner fixing, and 3 temples, because everyone loves temples, right?
Fine, okay, so maybe the second half...
Okay, except for Rudy. We know that he doesn't like temples. So this was the land base. Now let's head into the enchantments the deck plays. The deck plays 4 different enchantments, and we are going to start with Goblin Bombardment. For 2 mana you get an enchantment that says sacrifice a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to target creature or player. You'll be having a lot of small goblins roaming around, so you'll also have a lot of goblins to sack to your bombardment. And later in the game, if you have a Goblin Bombardment out, Goblin Trenches can also create a lot of goblins for you. You can sacrifice a land for 2 mana, and then you put 2 red and white goblin soldiers into the battlefield. Another enchantment that creates more goblins for us is the Mardu Ascendancy. It costs 3 mana of the Mardu colors, that's red, white and black. And whenever a non-token creature you control attacks, you put a red goblin into the battlefield that's tapped and attacking. And you can also sacrifice this enchantment to give creatures you control +0/+3. So it can also act as a defensive card. Next up is Offspring's Revenge.
Oh, it's a cute kitten. Can I cuddle this one?
Yes, Camille, a kitten. But we're not including kittens in this deck. This is a goblin deck, but there is one dragon that I put in especially for you.
Oh, but no kittens?
Yes, but a dragon.
Okay.
Alright, at the beginning of combat on your turn, with this enchantment you can exile target red, white or black creature from your graveyard and you can create a token that's a copy of that card. Except it's a 1/1 because it has to resemble a small goblin, right? It also has haste until your next turn. Now the cool thing is that these tokens stay onto the battlefield. So we have a lot of creatures with enter the battlefield abilities or just good creature abilities that are very useful when they come back. So we played some lands, we played 4 enchantments, and from now on we only play creatures. 32 to be exact, and 31 of them are goblins. Let's have a look. So I divided the goblins into a few categories, and the first category I'm going to talk about are the social goblins. They like to hang out in pairs or in groups, and they're not really keeping themselves at the social distancing rules from the moment.
Hey girl, what's up?
First one is the Goblin Instigator. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. Then there's also the Mock War Marshal, a little bit of the same, but it also has Echo, and when it dies, it also creates a token. Next up is the Goblin Matron. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a goblin card and put it into your hand. I play 2 Goblin Matrons, and I also play one guy that looks a little bit like my fitness instructor. It's called the Goblin Ringleader, and for 4 mana I get a 2/2 with haste, and when it enters the battlefield I can reveal the top 4 cards of my library and put all goblin cards into my hand. Now I play 31 goblins, so I'm sure I'm going to hit a lot of goblins with the Ringleader. The next one comes straight out of Carnival. Legion Warboss is a 2/2 for 3 mana with Mentor, and at the beginning of combat on my turn create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. That token gains haste until the end of turn and attacks this combat if able. On to 2 Krankos. One is called Tin Street Kingpin, but I don't want to really buy my jewelry from him. It looks a little bit like a dodgy character if you ask me. It's a 1/2 for 3 mana, and when it attacks you put a 1/1 counter on it, and then you create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to Krankos' power. Now I have a lot of goblins later in the list that also increase this card's power, and you also have the Goblin Burrows or the Castle Embereth, so a great card. And when you use the first Krankos ability, you can then use the second Krankos ability, because Kranko Mob Boss taps to create X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, where X is the number of goblins you control. So with those 2 creatures out, it's easy to create a bunch of goblins in one turn. Okay, did you know that the word Pasha comes from the word Pashalik? Apparently it was an administrative function in the army. Although I don't see this guy going into the books and doing your accounting. Hey, look at me, I'm an accountant with 2 swords, and if you don't pay your taxes right away, I will cut your head off. Okay, enough shenanigans, let's talk about Pashalik Mons. 3 mana gives you a 2/2, and when Pashalik Mons or another goblin dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And for 4 mana you can sacrifice a goblin to create 2 goblins. So a nice card that also has a nice combo, which I will explain later in the video, so stay put. Two other goblins that don't like social distancing are the Beetleback Chief, a 2/2 for 4 mana that brings along 2 goblins, and the Ponyback Brigade who brings along 3 goblins. Because who doesn't like riding a pony? Next up, some creative goblins. And this one wasn't cheap to buy, but I just needed to buy it. It's from Secret Lair. It's a reprint from Urza's Saga. Its name is Goblin Lackey, and for 1 mana you get a 1/1, and when it deals damage to your opponent, just deals damage, not even combat damage, you may put a goblin permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. And I just want to do it once, just once, with a Siege Gang Commander. Oh, I would love to see my opponent's face. The Goblin Lackey isn't the only 1-drop I play. I included 3 Skirk Prospector. This card allows me to sacrifice a goblin and add 1 red mana, and I also added a Spikeshot Elder. The Spikeshot Elder has often a power of 3 or more, and therefore its ability becomes really powerful. The next 2 goblins are quite fashionable.
Wow.
One is also a removal spell. It's called Munitions Expert from Modern Horizons. This guy on the right is called Goblin Sharpshooter, and it works amazingly well with all the sacrifice effects I have in the deck. Remember when we talked about the Nomad Outpost? Well, in those stands you can definitely find the Dark Dweller Oracle. Or maybe you can find him in one of those temples Rudy doesn't like.
1. Temple of Plenty. Never been so disappointed to get a land.
For 2 mana you get a 2/2, and for 1 mana you can sacrifice a creature, and you can exile the top card of your library, and you may play that card this turn. So later in the game, a real value creature. The next goblin got maybe a little bit too much spices from the previous shaman. Murderous Redcap, you need to chill, man. You need to stay off the drugs. You look so bad. Okay, Bran. Focus. This 2/2 for 4 mana enters the battlefield and it deals damage equal to its power to any target, and it also has persist, so it will come back and deal damage again. Step-on Ward is sometimes allowed in the castle to babysit the Goblin King's kids, and it will also get some goblins back from the graveyard. Now, I don't know how she will do that, but she has fear, so probably they're so scared they just need to come back.
Well, as I am the princess of the team, I think I deserve to introduce the Goblin royalty part, and I will let Bram explain you the cards.
Goblin King is a 3 mana 2/2 Goblin Lord that gives all my goblins +1/+1, and they also get Mountain Walk. Now, if you don't know what Mountain Walk means, it's a very old ability, and it means that when your opponent has a mountain, your creatures can't be blocked because your creatures have Mountain Walk. So if you're playing against red, this creature is very strong. So we now know which king was in the castle, but there's more royalty, because royalty usually brings the family along.
I'm really rich.
So is the king's aunt. And I'm not talking about Ward, I'm talking about the other aunt, who also joins us, and she can regenerate goblins who drank too much at the royal party. The king also brought a cousin called the Goblin Chieftain. For 3 mana you get a 2/2 with haste, and other goblins also get +1/+1 and haste. And he still has the party song on his flavor text. It's time for the smash smash song. It's time for the smash smash song. The king's oldest brother is called the Goblin War Chief. All your goblin spells cost 1 less to cast, and your goblins gain haste. And the king also has 2 cousins, but they're not really his favorite cousins, so they're in charge of the trash. They're called the Goblin Trash Master. I play 2 of them, and they don't really like artifacts, but the other goblins really love them, so they get +1/+1. Does that make sense to you, Camille?
Yes, perfect, Bram.
Ah, very good, very good. So, we talked about some social goblins, some creative goblins, some royalty. Now, we also have some goblins for the goblin army. I play 2 Slinggang Lieutenant. It's a 1/1 for 4 mana, and when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 red goblin creature tokens and you can sacrifice a goblin. Then target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And there's another one that helps with the goblin army. He's called Siege Gang Commander. It's a very famous goblin card, and I also play 2 of them. For 5 mana you got a 2/2 with 3 goblins, and for 2 mana you can sacrifice the goblin and deal 2 damage to any target. So these were my finishers in the deck.
But, Bram, where is my dragon?
Ah yes, Camille, there's also a goblin loving dragon. Well, goblin loving in the sense that he likes to eat goblins. It's called the Voracious Dragon. For 5 mana you get a 4/4 flying dragon with Devour, and when it enters the battlefield it deals damage to target creature or player equal to twice the number of goblins you devoured. So sometimes it just enters the battlefield, eats all your goblins and does 20 damage to your opponent. Fatality. You like that, Camille?
Who spoke about the Goblin Barbecue?
So this was the deck. I was talking about a combo with Pashalik Mons. So let's look at the combo before we head into the power rankings. You need 3 cards. One is an enchantment called Goblin Trenches. You also need a bunch of land and a Skirk Prospector and a Pashalik Mons. You will need 2 untapped mana and you sacrifice a land and you put 2 red goblins into the battlefield. Now you sacrifice those goblins and then you get 2 mana, but when a goblin dies, you also deal 1 damage to any target. So 2 goblin dies, 2 damage is dealt and you have 2 mana. Then you sacrifice again a land if you still have a land, and do that again and again and again and again. This way you can easily deal a lot of damage to your opponent and maybe even just kill him with this combo. Wow. So this was one of the many combos in the deck. You really have to try this deck out to find out all the bits and pieces that are hidden in. It's really such a cool deck to play. Now let's head into the power rankings. This deck is quite powerful, so I gave it an 8, but it's also quite complex if you want to get the maximum amount of value out of it. It's quite consistent, so I gave it a 7, and it plays more offensively than defensively. Playing with goblins is a really fun thing to do, and the deck is really also value for its money. Next up, the metagame review. How does the deck against other decks? Well, quite good. Against aggressive decks, it could hold its own. Against mid-range decks, it could go wide. And even against control decks, especially with the Offspring's Revenge, the goblins keep on coming back all the time, so it will be definitely a problem for the control player. The only matchup I don't want to play is against a combo deck. And when I do end up against a combo deck, I just want to focus on killing my opponent as fast as possible. So we're nearly at the end of the deck tech. The sun is coming out, so that means it is time for our quiz. Now, what is the purpose of this quiz? Well, it's just for fun and to find out a little bit your knowledge about old and obscure magic cards. Let me explain to you how it's going to work. I'm going to show to you a picture and a set symbol. So first you're going to try to guess which set symbol it is. And if you can already guess the card, well, you already get a point. Then I will show the card to verify if you're correct. So you will have 2 points at the end. So grab a piece of paper. First, do you know the set symbol? And then do you know the card before I was showing it to you? You ready?
3, 2, are you ready?
Put it on pause, get some paper, and let's go. How goblin are you? How goblin are you? Quiz! This one looks a little bit like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, but he's not holding the one ring, he's holding some kind of egg. Here is the set symbol, and here is the card Squee Goblin Nabob. The next one's hairdresser is probably closed during this time. Here is the set symbol, it's called Goblin Heel Cutter. Already 2 for 2? Let's see if you can guess the next one. He could come straight out of Shrek, and this is a weird set symbol. I'm gonna give you a hint. It's from one of those 3 fun sets. It's called the 3-headed goblin and it has triple strike. So it's first, then normal, and it also deals damage a little bit at the end. It's called Last Strike. Now this is a fun card, so you don't really see it a lot, but you can even try it out in this goblin deck. Why not? Yes, this is a goblin, and if you know this one, you are truly a goblin king. Here is the set symbol. The set is called Eventide, and the card is called Hobgoblin Dragoon. Props if you knew this one. Now this is not the original drawing of the card, it's a card from Fallen Empires. That's when it was originally introduced. So I'm not going to give you the set symbol of Fallen Empires, but I'm going to give you this set symbol. It's from Magic 25 and the card is called Goblin War Drums. Next up, a blue goblin from a set that's more recent. It's not a really well-known goblin because it's a common goblin. It's called Goblin Trailblazer from Rivals of Ixalan. And this is one of my favorite goblin arts. In a negotiation, these guys will probably not going to help you a lot. Here is the set symbol and the card is called Goblin Diplomats. Really flavorful card. Another one. More recent. Cool art. Yes, this set symbol you might know. I believe it's from Ravnica Allegiance. The card is called Goblin Crater Maker and it's one of the only goblins that can destroy an Eldrazi. Do you know this Einstein of the goblin world? I really had to think twice when I saw this card. This is the set symbol and it's an older set. It's from Guild Pack and the card's name is Goblin Flectomancer. So how are you doing so far? We have 9 questions in and I have 1 more left for you. Let's have a look. It's a fun one. Do you know this card? Here is the set symbol. This set symbol is from Unglued and the card is called the Goblin Bowling Team. So these were the 10 quiz questions. Let me know in the comments how you did. Now the moment where you all have been waiting for. The winner of the card market voucher is Rock Girl. Thanks for your comments and for following my channel. So this was it. This was today's deck tech. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and as much as probably Camille did. Thanks already Camille for the edit. And to all of you kitchen table wizards out there, keep it casual. Bye.